The ocean was black that night, the kind of darkness that swallows everything except the sound of your own heartbeat. It was August 1942, and the USS Nautilus slid across the Pacific like a steel shadow. Inside her forward compartment, 40 men sat packed together, backs against cold metal, sweat mixing with diesel fumes. They were the Marines the posters bragged about. They were the misfits, the fighters, the troublemakers who never followed rules and never backed down from a fight, even the wrong fight. Men who had spent more time in the brig than on duty. Men the Corps didn't know how to use, but someone did. Lieutenant Colonel Evans Carlson stood among them, thin, quiet, watching. His eyes weren't the eyes of a man about to lead a suicide mission. They were calm, focused, as if he could already see the ending. Carlson had spent months fighting beside Chinese guerrillas, learning how small teams could break empires. He believed that discipline didn't come from rank, it came from trust, from unity, from the simple idea that every man mattered. Gung-ho worked together, and tonight these 40 so-called criminals would prove the idea on a battlefield nobody expected. Makin Atoll, a tiny speck of sand held by the Japanese, buried deep inside the Pacific. Intelligence said there were thousands of enemy troops across the region, maybe 30,000 in the surrounding islands. The raiders weren't going to take Makin. They weren't going to hold it. They were going to hit it so hard, so fast, that the Japanese command would panic. Carlson looked around the submarine and spoke softly, like he was talking to each man privately. "You're not here because you were trouble," he said. "You're here because trouble never scared you. And that's exactly the kind of man this mission needs." That was it, no speech, no fire, just truth. The engine slowed, red lights glowed overhead. The raiders rose, checked their gear, and climbed one by one onto the deck. The hatch opened, and the Pacific hit them with a wall of heat and salt. Rubber boats were lowered into the water, black shapes rocking in the moonlit waves. Everything needed to be silent. A single splash, a single clatter of metal, and the whole island would know they were coming. The Marines climbed into their boats. Then the ocean turned against them. Waves crashed like angry fists, flipping boats, scattering men, swallowing equipment. Jack McCauley, young, strong, and tired from days without sleep, grabbed a paddle and dug it into the water with everything he had. Salt burned his throat, waves slapped his face, but he kept going. The raiders regrouped, half-drowned but determined, and paddled toward the faint outline of palm trees rising out of the dark. Dawn crept across the horizon as their feet hit sand. No welcome, no gunfire, just heavy silence. Then a Japanese patrol boat appeared offshore. The raiders dropped flat, faces pressed into wet sand as the boat scanned the beach with a mounted gun. The searchlight passed just above their heads. One slip and the mission was over before it began. But the boat drifted on, blind to the danger waiting on shore. Carlson gave the signal. An explosion tore through the stillness, lighting the sky orange. A Japanese guard tower disintegrated in a spray of wood and fire. Before the debris even hit the ground, the raiders were moving, fast, low, precise. Machine guns barked in the distance. Palm trees shook under bursts of gunfire. The raiders split into small fire teams, weaving through jungles, smashing into bunkers, tearing through supply stations. Jack sprinted with his team toward a Japanese radio shack. A Japanese officer burst from behind a fuel barrel, pistol raised. Jack fired, but his rising jammed instantly. The officer fired back, the bullet whistling past Jack's ribs. Jack lunged, tackling him into the dirt. The struggle was violent, fast. Jack slammed the officer's head into the ground, grabbed his pistol, and fired until the radio erupted in sparks. Electricity danced across the floor. The smell of burnt metal filled the air. In another corner of the island, Sergeant O'Hara charged a machine gun nest alone. Bullets sliced the air around him. He dove, rolled, stuffed a block of TNT under the sandbags, and sprinted away. The blast sent sand, steel, and bodies into the sky. The Japanese counterattacked, wave after wave. Some charged with bayonets raised, screaming war cries that sent chills down the spine. Snipers fired from the tops of coconut trees, picking targets with deadly patience. But the raiders moved like smoke, hit, vanish, reappear somewhere unexpected. It wasn't chaos. It was controlled madness. Hours blurred into each other. Sweat, blood, smoke, broken weapons, empty magazines. The raiders had destroyed communication lines, wiped out garrisons, blown ammo dumps sky high, but they knew the clock was running out. Japanese reinforcements were on the way. Thousands of them. Carlson ordered withdrawal. The raiders pushed toward their extraction point, but the ocean was no longer the same ocean they crossed at dawn. Now it was a wall of fury. Massive waves pounded the shore, flipping boats before they even touched the water. Some raiders tried anyway, only to be swallowed by white foam. Others dragged boats down the beach, searching for calmer water. Jack looked back toward the tree line and saw Japanese soldiers moving like shadows. They were coming fast. The raiders turned, forming a firing line on the beach. The air shook with gunfire. Sand blasted upward. Jack fired until his borrowed pistol clicked empty, then grabbed another weapon from the ground and kept shooting. The Japanese kept pushing, attacking with terrifying resolve. Then a voice cut through the chaos. "The boats, they're afloat, move." The raiders sprinted into the surf, dragging wounded men, shoving boats through the waves that felt like they were trying to throw them back to shore. A massive breaker slammed into Jack's boat, tossing half the team into the water. He fought the current, grabbed the boat's rope, pulled with everything inside him. Another wave lifted them high, dropped them like a stone. But the boat pushed forward. Behind them, the Japanese fired from the beach, bullets splashing into the sea around the paddles. The raiders didn't look back. They paddled like survival was something you could outrun. Finally, through the spray, the shape of the submarine rose from below like an iron mountain. Hands grabbed Jack, hauled him aboard. His legs almost gave out as they hit the deck. Around him, raiders collapsed, trembling, soaked, exhausted. Carlson counted heads. 40 went ashore. 9 did not return, but what they accomplished wasn't measured in numbers. It was measured in panic, in confusion, in the way the Japanese high command reacted. They believed they had been attacked by a full Marine division. They doubled security everywhere. They reshaped their defensive plans across the entire Pacific because of 40 men the Marine Corps had nearly thrown away. America learned something too. That small teams, fast, silent, skilled in sabotage and disappearance, could do what entire battalions could not. That a handful of men could shape the battlefield long before an invasion force ever arrived. Carlson's raiders were eventually absorbed into other units. But their philosophy, their tactics, their spirit survived. Years later, when the Navy created a new kind of warrior, one who could fight from the sea, from the air, and on land, they needed a blueprint. They looked backward, not at perfect Marines, not at polished soldiers, but at misfits. 40 wild, stubborn, fiercely loyal men who paddled through a storm, struck an empire, and vanished before the dust settled. Their raid on Makin became one of the first pages in the doctrine that would evolve into the Navy SEALs. Not because the mission was flawless, but because it proved something powerful, that grit, creativity, and heart could outweigh numbers, rank, and reputation. That the men America almost gave up on could become the foundation for its most elite warriors. Jack McCauley returned home years later. He never talked much about Makin. He carried scars, a crooked finger, and a quiet understanding that some stories weren't meant for glory. They were meant as warnings,